Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with the Superlative podcast. My guest today, again, is George Bamford. George, welcome back to the podcast.
God, it's so good to be here. Ariel, I absolutely love coming on this podcast. I love chatting to you. I love hanging out with you. It is so cool. This is so awesome. So thank you so much for having me.
When did you first notice that you were a true fan of the podcasting format? Obviously, you've gone all in multiple ways, but years ago, something happened. Because when we first met, you were not Mr. Podcast.
Yeah.
It somehow developed, and you became such an enthusiast and fan of the platform.
I think to myself I constantly feel very lucky on a podcast. I feel very lucky to listen to podcasts. I think we're very, very lucky. We listen to it on an iPhone or a Samsung or whatever device. So we're doing better than X amount of people in the world. We're probably in our car listening to your podcast, and we're doing better than some of the people in this world. Then we're also talking about watches, so we really are in a very special world. So for me, when I look at being on a podcast or doing podcasts, I feel like it is such a great audience. And you're in this collective audience. And so I think to myself is that, I don't know, I kind of love hearing people talking about the worlds that I love. My kind of podcasts I go to are tech, of course, watches. And then I have to have some kind of positive podcasts in the world as well. And it's just great. But, when we're talking about the watch world and you look at it and you think, this is a world that you don't totally need in some ways, but you love. And the same with podcasts. Do we need podcasts in this world? I don't know, but I love them and I consume tons of them. So it's kind of, I'm in this weird world.
Well, you celebrate the leisure of having a hobby.
Yeah.
You love hobbies in general. You love your hobbies.
Yeah.
And not only do you love your hobbies, but you love others that love your hobbies.
Yes.
It's a lot of love.
But you have to. I think, this is the great thing is when we look at the world at the moment, you have to kind of embrace the suck, but then you also have to embrace these things that make you smile, these things that, and just enjoying the thing that really connects to you. You think about this watch world that we live in. It is a real kind of, this is a hobby that is my business, your business, but it's a hobby that, what was that famous saying? If you do something you love, you never do a day's work in your life. And I feel like we're very lucky to actually be in that kind of sphere now.
The undercurrent of luxury pursuits is essentially this. It's men and women throughout history who've been fortunate enough to make a business out of that thing which they love and sometimes make a fortune at it. Yeah. But that's really what it is. All of this exists because certain people have been able to dedicate their otherwise productive lives to either making this stuff or consuming, collecting, analyzing this stuff. It is a luxury to be able to take a part of our day and spend it on what is, in essence, frivolous nonsense, but it's frivolous nonsense that makes us happy, and everyone needs some happiness in their life.
You're totally right. I honestly, you just made me laugh. I was just like, but it is and it isn't. It's one of those things where I freaking love, when we go down these rabbit holes of discovery of a certain watch or kind of like, I love going on to aBlogtoWatch and going, actually, this is something that I absolutely love. And you taking me down a rabbit hole, on certain watches, or when I listen to a podcast, I'm like going, oh my God, I really want that. It's, there's a brand I'm totally obsessed with, and I'm sure when this comes out, we will have launched it. But I went on this discovery of 2 years or 3 years of trying to bring a brand back. and I'm so pleased.
Oh, you've gone down that rabbit hole again.
Oh, yeah, but I don't own it. So it's not a brand that
Oh, you don't own it, so all your work is going to be taken by others? Come on.
No, I've been part and parcel of. I'm very lucky to have discovered a brand, and so for me, this has been one of those things. But the thing, what I would say to you is, on any side of these kind of on these little discoveries, you open up this kind of crevice and you then see that there's this wonderful kind of, I don't know, spider's web of discovery underneath. And I think that's what's great, is whenever you look at any watch brand or anything, that is your passion, you will spend time.
You're a social explorer. That's what I call you. In your photography world, you did that. You're socially exploring, and this is a lens within which to do that.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I love discovering on cars, and I love discovering on anything. But you're the same. I mean, you think about how you go into the detail, but also you have a little bit of a. I know I love how you and I argue with each other about the future, because you and I. There's been so many times where I'm like, "Oh, that's not going to work," and you're just like, "No, watch here," and I think that you and I are on the separate side of the Apple Vision Pro. You were like, no, this is the future, and I was like, yeah, but I don't know. But that's the great thing, is I love when we can have debates about what, but it's even on watches, that's where, if every watch was the same, then we wouldn't see the world, we'd all be a clone of someone else.
Well, I also am starting to think about our obsession with watches as a sort of like tool fetishization, and the larger concept of men's appreciation with tools. And I'm not saying women don't appreciate tools, but I think men have a very unique appreciation of tools that goes in a very strange direction. And watches are this weird ultimate way of appreciating your nerdery about tools, because it is a tool to do so many things. It's a tool to make you look good. It's a tool to tell the time. It's a tool to not fall apart. It's a tool to resist the elements. I mean, it's just like layers and layers of tool all built into one cool thing, what you can have dozens of relatively easily. Yeah. And it's great.
But it's also the tools around the tool. It's like, you've got behind you some amazing watch winders. You think about the paraphernalia, the strap hacking tools, the whole thing. This is where, when you look at these
the tools to make it are the best tools.
Oh, Jesus. And design.
Come on.
I mean, I'm so pleased to be able to design with brands. And, I'm kind of a kid in a candy store. And that's the great thing, is that, it's amazing to work with brands to do some things. So it's kind of...
Speaking of bringing back brands and buying things and stuff like that, did you just acquire the Charles Schultz estate? Because, you and the Snoopy, I mean, I think you have an ownership interest at this point.
Oh my God! Snoopy is just so cool. A lot of people ask me why Snoopy, and when I was born, a Snoopy was put in my cot, and so Snoopy has always been a kind of comfort, something that makes me feel supported in life in a weird way, of this character that every time I describe Snoopy, it kind of gives me a smile. It turns up my face, and it did when you just said Snoopy. You started smiling. So what I'd say is, no matter what, you can't be angry. You can't be kind of negative when Snoopy's around. So that's why I've always kind of I've loved working with Peanuts, and yes, we've done quite a few. We've just done one that's sold out. That is with Harrods, and to celebrate their 175th anniversary. I didn't realize it would sell out so quickly. We have done
It's Harrods, come on.
I know, but you never know. And also, in the market we are in at the moment, and this is something that I would say to you, is in the market we're in at the moment.
Those catalogs analog businesses, they're immune from everything.
Well, but working with a brand that's 175 years old, I was like, okay, this is going to be lasting until the summer. We'll have a bit of time, and anyway, it sold out, and I'm absolutely blown away. But the market is a very weird market. We've got 3 elections, 3 wars. It is. We're in a very odd place, and I don't presume anything is how we were last year.
Why don't you play both sides? For example, in the UK, you make a watch for the Tories and you make a watch for Labour. You just play both sides.
I've just found the coolest images, and I'll send you on the WhatsApp. And I've even brought a T-shirt that says it. It says Snoopy for president. And
there you go.
So I'm voting for Snoopy. I'm not voting for. I vote for Snoopy.
What are Snoopy's policies? I'm just curious.
Well, I don't know. Just to be happy. So I'm voting for Snoopy. It's kind of one of those things. Look, honestly, would you do one for each side? I think I'd do one for Snoopy and vote for Snoopy. I think it is the coolest thing because I just love the old vintage style of Peanuts. There was always this thing of if you look back in the archives, you look back in even Vietnam War, there was a lot of Zippos and the people had Snoopy on them. I love that it's been a part of culture throughout our time. So that was kind of my side.
So here's something that I'd like to see more people do, and I'd love your opinion on this. It is fantastic that these cartoon characters, which, just a few years ago were never associated with luxury, are now fair game for a creative approach to luxury watches. I am so happy that LVMH decided to rekindle things with Disney.
Oh, yeah.
For Gerald Genta. That is so fantastic. And they're cool. Yeah. They're expensive. They are very high end and hard to get, but they are very fun and charming. So these characters that we grew up with, and that sort of were always too pedestrian and too childish for luxury, now we're forgetting. I'm so happy with that. But what I think is interesting is that there hasn't been a lot of originality in terms of making new characters. You could hire a cartoonist today and be like, hey, let's make some new dials rather than just take old ones, old characters. Why is there not more investment in artists doing that? In a very small scale, you have Mr. Jones watches sort of doing that a little bit, but not on the scale of these sort of character-rich watches where their hands are the watch hands, and maybe there's other animations and stuff like that, because there seems to be an opportunity to go even further by hiring artists to make new art.
Do you know, I kind of question that to myself. When I saw the Chanel watch come out with Mrs. Chanel on the dial, or Miss, I can't how to describe it, but I saw that watch and I just went, this is freaking amazing, because they did a character watch and they made her into a character. And I thought that really is a finger up to every other brand, because we're bringing the coolest person in our brand onto a watch. And I was like, okay, yeah, look, could we do that? And and I've talked to character artists and I'm wanting to create something, but I would love to do a dog. I would love to do not a Snoopy, but something that is a Bamford or a Bamford bee, Bumblebee. But the thing I would say is there's so many great characters out there. I was thinking to myself, the Wacky Racers, Penelope Pit Stop, Dastardly Dog, there's some really cool characters still that have not been out there. But also the other thing is the old, I was looking at the old cereal packets, it's great. I'm like, Jesus Christ, if you got Tony the Tiger on a watch, I would want that watch. I'd be like, it's great. And
Kellogg owned that? Who owns those rights?
Kellogg's own. Okay. So, but what I'd say to you is that there is some new characters coming out. There's some new things that have happened. There's an artist friend of mine called Philip Colbert. We did a whole series of watches with lobsters that I thought was absolutely amazing, crazy. But what happens, and I will say to you, is, a character that you connect with. So let's say Sesame Street. We did a thing with the Sesame Street.
Big Bird. I have
Yeah.
I have that dial on my desk. It's just literally just a dial, but I have it in a little thing on my desk.
Well, Big Bird. You think about the watches that we did. Oh my God! You still okay? So I should put in a watch for you. But what was amazing is that those characters sell more than a unique character unless you get behind it. You think about Oris has got behind their teddy bear. And they've done a great thing, but they did Kermit the Frog that I thought was awesome what they did. I thought it was a really clever thing because I loved that it was just that green dial with just on the date he popped up. I thought, actually, that's quite cool. It's a different way of seeing it.
But you're not in a rush. You can wait for the public to discover it and for it to become something that people get into. I mean, with all new art, if it flies off the shelves, that means it's derivative.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree. Look, I've been looking into it, but it's like, what is the one that connects with me? And there's been 2 or 3 times we've tried, and then I just come back to Snoopy or Popeye or
Here's what I want. I want a cartoon version of you as a child.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm burning down the house probably.
Yeah, you're going to be sort of like a combination of Calvin and Dennis the Menace and something, but it's going to be the boy version of George Bamford in cartoon form, of course, a little idealized. Who you get to be who you wanted to be, and that's the character doing different things. I think that should be the new mascot.
Do you know I'm gonna throw it out to your listeners, and I'm gonna direct it to your listeners because I'm gonna say is if any of you are a cartoonist, at me on my Instagram, Bamford Watch Department, and I'd love to see what type of character you think.
Calling all cartoonists.
Yeah.
If you have a fun version of George you'd like to share with him, he is inviting submissions.
I think that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Because the thing is, the people that are listening to this are the people that know about watches. They love watches. And if there's a cartoonist in there, I would absolutely love it. So what was interesting, I got a message recently on Instagram from someone, and he just went, "Will you stop doing Snoopy? I want you to do Droopy the dog."
Droopy?
And
okay.
I said, and I went back and I said, "Why do you want Droopy?" And he said, "Because I want something that is grumpy like some of the people in the watch world." And I just went, "What? We're all positive," and it was quite funny.
I think that would be great. Okay, so more original art coming on your dials. Yeah. Do you think that others would follow suit, or they're going to be too afraid of lingering stock?
I don't know. I think, especially at the moment, I think a lot of brands are not going to take major risks. I look at what they're doing this year. There's calculated risks. I think that's why a lot of brands are doing calculated risks. You look at some of the things that are coming out. There's some watches that really connect with me. I would say to you as the new Ulysses Nardin dive watch. I love it. I think they've done a knockout blow with it. I love what they've done on the case, but I think that's them just understanding their market. It's understanding what and the colorways, and they've done it already on the Freak, and I think they've done a good job. The Formula One from Tag Heuer, I absolutely loved what they did. I think it's not for everyone, but it's sold out. The order books were huge for it. And the amount of people, it's revived the Formula One's past. I mean, on eBay, I was picking them up for, I don't know, $50-$60. And now
that was 10 years ago.
About that. Yes,
more recently they went up. You're talking $400 or $500 for bad condition, but I know what you mean.
No, but what I'm saying is now they're stupid amounts of money. I mean, I mean, $400 or $500 now or dollars now. I'm like going, that's a lot of money for when I was buying them for 50, 60, 70. I mean, I was topping out at 130 for really good mint condition, cream and blue, one of the rare ones. And I was like, not printed with the, Senna or any of the dials, but those ones. And I look at the prices now, and Tag Heuer has done a very good job. They've switched it around and said, hey, okay, we're helping the history.
What do you think that Tag Heuer should do next? Obviously, it made a lot of sense to do a flashy revival at the original size and some of the original colors. I think even Tag Heuer's agreed that's not a mainstream product. It's too small. And of course, it's sort of dual branded. It's confusing for the long run. It's not going to be that. What do you think they should do for the next version of the Formula One?
Well, I would say to you is that I think the Formula One should come back. The size should be a little bit increased, not massively increased, but I would say 2 or 3 centimeters, 2 or 3 clicks bigger.
Sure.
I think that would work.
Like a 38 millimeter?
38's a really good size. I think this is a boy's size, and I think 38 becomes a unisex size. What I mean is that it can work for both women and men. My wife has stolen my Kith versions. She loves them. She puts it on the wrist, and she absolutely loves it.
They're fun. They're super fun.
But I think they could run with it. There's something, and someone told me, or Nick from Tag Heuer said, there's something like 250 or 300 derivatives or different colors on the Formula One.
Interesting.
So when you look at the Formula One, when you're looking on the internet, like I looked at the pink and grey, and I looked at, there's so many colors that
pink and grey was cool.
Haven't been used, or the bright orange and grey. There was the cream case with a blue bezel one that I absolutely loved. There is so many colors that they've got in their archive that they could launch and just run with it in such a great way. And so that's where I would be with them, is I would go into the archive and I'd pick out some successful colors of the past, but also some things that could work. There's a green on green one that really could work.
What do you think the price point should be? I mean, I understand it doesn't need to be swatch price, but I think that right now that price point is going to be difficult to justify for the long term if they want to keep it have some exposed plastic quartz model. I know they don't want to hear that, but I just don't want it to be too expensive. I want to know what you think.
Look, you and I want to have it as something where you don't have to think about buying it. And I know that sounds strange, but you want a watch where you don't, it doesn't take you into the overdraft. It doesn't, you don't have to, like, when I was saying to you the $150 or the now $500 price point for the vintage ones, you're in that bracket where you're like, actually, I have to think about it, but I don't need to kind of go. It's not a £10,000 watch, And I think when I look at the price of it, I think, I don't know, you think about inflation, you think about all the things that have happened around us. I could say to you about price point, I don't know. They've still sold out. They've sold out in a record-breaking time. And I spoke to the AD at Tag Heuer London, and I spent a lot of time chatting to him. And I was there for probably an hour. And I could count you probably about 40 people in that hour that came into the Tag Heuer boutique that were not Tag Heuer customers asking for this watch. So whatever the case is, I think it's opened up that avenue of something different for them.
My goal is that you can walk on the street and a mainstream person will wear this. And I think that there's a lot of the sort of streetwear people into it and these sort of collectible resellers. I mean, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but I go to shopping malls now with my son, and I try to find some of the same stores that I used to find when I was a kid. And there's a new type of store now that appears to have toys and stuff like that, but it's not toys. They're like collectibles, like very inexpensive action figures and figurines and cards and things like that. Like it looks like kid stuff, but there's no kids playing with it. It's just being resold amongst adults in good condition.
I'm literally just stepping away from my desk for 1 second because I've got something on here. So
do your thing.
I'm
Okay, so there you go. So you probably bought that one of those types of stores.
I did.
Right.
I brought it in Japan. This is a transformer. It was
By
a bathing
Bape?
ape transformer, and I brought it in Japan when I was out there. And I am a kid. And it's
But it's
still
meant to be played with. My point is this. It's
Oh, no,
great, but it's meant to be played with.
No, I know, and my son keeps on trying to nick it off me, and I just love it as it is.
As he should. Tomy, Japan's Tomy is one of the best toy companies on the planet. Incredible stuff. They should have their own nerdery around it. But the thing is, that's become an item where you're like, I don't know if I should open it if I'll ever get one again.
No. I'm not one of those. I actually, because in my office, I've got this kind of wall of kind of weird things. So I've got things like an Elmo on it, and they've just been these kind of pieces of art in there. And this is part of that. There is, I've got vintage Transformers that my son just beats the hell out of them. And I beat but they are my old ones that are kind of, and
Stay with me.
But
I know what you're talking about. Well, but so my point was, I want watches like the Formula One, which is essentially a toy, to be played with. I don't want people to baby it and think that they're going to hold on to the future. I want it to be something which is available enough in terms of price point and quantity or whatever, that I could just walk down the street and someone's wearing it and not think too much of it. So it's sometimes this artificially restricted production, which sure creates demand, but I think they're going a little bit too silly with it.
Okay, I don't agree with you, and I do. Look, what I'm really pleased about is things like the Omega Swatch has replaced a lot of people's Apple Watch on their wrist. And I love when, people are obsessed with watches.
But that's like $250.
No, I understand that. But what I'm pleased about is I love that that has started. The person that's serving at a restaurant used to be having an Apple Watch. Now they've got a Omega Swatch, and I'm thinking that's freaking cool. And I'm looking at those things and saying that is amazing. The Omega Swatch, what annoyed me about it, or annoys me now, is it's freely available. So when I waited in that queue for the black edition or the whatever edition, or the
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
I waited in a queue because I didn't know that they were going to produce any more. I didn't think I thought these ones were going to be in and out. And that's what I love about the Formula Ones. I believed the hype. I did believe the hype. I was one of those people that believed the hype. But
I knew all along, if you just waited long enough, you'll get one of those Swatch Omegas. No problem.
Okay, but you're a genius and I'm definitely not. But I waited in those queues and I was like, what the hell have I done? Anyway, what I would say to you is, what I like about the Formula One is it is limited edition. So there is only X amount of them. So what happens is I'm very happy at buying those because I know that, like, they can drop. They've got 200 and something colorways. They could drop multiple colorways at maybe a higher number, but still, I think you would go, okay, I know that they're limited run. And then what would happen is you could be producing millions of these, like Omega Swatch, but in a different way. I think then you could then bring the price down, probably. I also don't care, when you talk about, a lot of people are negative about quartz. I'm like, there's an FP Journe with quartz movement. There's a Cartier with a quartz movement. And
is anybody actually still negative about quartz? I wonder if that train has stopped.
No, there's still
some laggards haven't got the memo.
Yeah, there's still some people that go, quartz is evil, or why would you pay that? Why would you pay that for that? And then when you go to them and say, guys, but a Cartier's got a quartz movement, and this has got a quartz movement.
I just say everyone's overpaying for everything.
Yeah, well, exactly. But it's the same with the automotive world. It's the same with most worlds at the moment. People greedflation has already increased.
Ooh, greedflation. I haven't actually heard that term.
I
Is that the
heard
new common parlance?
No, I heard it a few months ago, and I was just like, and I've been desperate to use it somewhere, somehow.
No, it
So
fits.
it's
It fits. So what happens when they can't do that anymore? First they actually got high in their supply during COVID because production numbers are down. And like you said, you like limited edition. It was quite limited. And then they didn't want the party to end.
Yeah.
And then now they won't invest and they won't actually do anything creative because they're so afraid about the future. And they've all increased prices. And I keep hearing this from a lot of sides of the media where they're like shocked by how much some prices have gotten up. And it is crazy high. Like, we're not talking to like small percentage points. We're talking about like more than 10% in like 2 or 3 years. Like really crazy stuff. Maybe even more than that. Are they going to be left with a bunch of overpriced watches the market's laughing them about and be like, there's all this used stuff on the market way cheaper. What's wrong with you people?
Well, to see, that's something that I think you, but also your viewers, your listeners. I think it is one of those things.
It's video now. Viewers too.
Viewers.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? So anyway, I think when I look at it, you have to have your top price. You have to have something that the maximum you will pay for a watch ever in your mind, and keep it as that. I have my ceiling that I will never cross on buying a watch, and it is not huge. I know you're smiling and you're saying, but it's not the.
It's not near your car ceiling.
No, it's definitely not near the car ceiling. There's a car ceiling and but I have a ceiling, even for cars, I have a ceiling for all of these things, because then I know I can't afford that. Yes, of course I could, oh my God, I could go and, afford a Rexef watch, but it's way above my price, so I can't afford it. And
it's not even your thing. That's not what gets you excited about watches.
But what I'm saying to you is, like, I have a certain ceiling that I go and on anything.
And if you're not someone who has a ceiling and you're a collector, you need to establish it right away, or you're going to do some really unhealthy things.
But like on eBay, I have a massive, and I'm sure your viewers and listeners are on the same boat. That late night when you go, my brain can't switch off. I've just done something. I've either been running or anyway. Your brain can't switch off, and you spend time on eBay. And I spend time on eBay, and I literally spend hours and hours and hours looking at Hoya stopwatches and stopwatches. I have this obsession with stopwatches, but I have a ceiling. And my ceiling is £250 to £300. That is my ceiling. That's all I'll spend.
How high do those go, by the way? That's an area I don't know the prices of.
So they can go for 3,000-4,000. But I'm in there's some that are cheaper, but I'm 150.
You don't need to spend. I mean, look, a lot of these things are pretty utilitarian. They got a great action to them, but they weren't sold in jewelry stores.
No, but they were cool designs. Cool.
Yeah, they were really cool.
I love their dials. I love there was so much inventiveness around those. So I buy them, and then they go up the stairs to my watchmakers, and I'm totally obsessed. And I've got a Tag Heuer printing machine, and I've got a judo timer. I'm like, why have I got one of those? But this is my eBay finds.
I mean, we both have that. And again, I love how interested you are in instruments. Yeah. Even in your most elaborate stuff, really instruments and a love of instruments falls into it, especially ones that have that friendly, engaging look, which often manifests itself in colors and things like that. But like, that's your thing. You keep exploring it artistically, and that might be what you're doing for a long time. And that's okay, because a lot of people like instruments.
Honestly, it's cool, but it's the same. You and I have, but on anyone do have ceilings of what you're willing to pay. And then what happens is, like, let's say you don't like a quartz movement or whatever. It doesn't matter, because you're not going to pay that for that. So you make your own decision up, because, other people will love something because it connects to their heart or it connects to this.
So help explain this, because you've been doing this long enough. On the one hand, we all want to be highly individualistic in the watches that we enjoy. We know that it's very personal. Yet on the other hand, it takes a very mature person to stop themselves from criticizing another person's watch that you will never wear. How do we reconcile this?
So I was very lucky. I was in Amsterdam with Alon, and you know Alon from Ace Jewelers, and
Yes.
and he hosted this watch get together, and there was some amazing, batshit crazy watches. And sorry to swear, but they were crazy. There were some things that I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen that. And the thing is, what you have to be wherever you are, you can say, oh, I've seen that before, or this is the. But what I would say is, be like a kid, be the curious mind. See the case, feel the watch, and then you can say no. You can say, that door, someone's showing you something and they're going, I like this because of why and there's a story behind everything.
So, but provide some wisdom to help people from being offended by another man's watch.
Oh, provide some wisdom. I'm going to basically tell them.
It's an emotional hobby. People need to learn how to regulate these emotions.
They need to really be, unless you have had the watch on your wrist and there's a reason why you don't like something, why be the critic? Be positive with someone that's said that they are part of this community. We are very, very lucky, but I loved it. And I've spoken about this before, but you think about certain communities inside or certain forums, there is some really positive forums. And I can mention a few, like there's a Seiko community that is really boosting. There's you and I have this Casio G-Shock love, and that community is really, hey, have you seen this? This is cool. This is, there is a real kind of nice, positive community. Breitling has got an amazing community. Their forum, their community. Fred, that's an amazing person on Breitling's side. I mean, they really do embrace the communities. There's other communities that are very like, hey, that's wrong, or this is, and there is this kind of like, you want to almost tell someone they're stupid and you're amazing. Well, the biggest thing is, why don't you actually get them to be part and parcel of why you think you're right and they think that they're right? I loved this. I've said this multiple times. I had a Breitling bullhead, and I put it up on Instagram on my stories, and I was like, "This is so cool! I love the colors, and I love everything." And I got 2 messages from 2 people in the Breitling community. One of them I probably mentioned already. Both of them said, "Oh, do you know that the hands are not 100%?" I was like,
that's a Fred thing to say, yeah.
Yeah, but there was another person that said it, and I thought, and both of them I didn't know. So don't think I'm promoting. Both of them I didn't know, and I thought, here we go again. Someone's going to point it out and then go, "You're a dumbass. This is blah 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 blah." And really go at me, and
I would have said, "I'm George Bamford. I've been changing hands on original watches for a long time now."
No. Okay. No. So anyway, what happened, and what I would say to you, what happened is Fred said, I have got, sorry, Fred, I meant, but he said, I've got the original hands. Get your watchmaker to put the original hands on it. And I loved that thing is, these hands turned up, they're beautifully. And he said, the watch will be 100% now. And what I would say is that's a hug. Yes. Okay. Yes, this is George Bamford and this is but it's not. It's very much, that is when I talk to people in the Breitling community, I talk to them on even, you think of On the Dash and when he brings up the things like Monaco and he's talking about the Monaco and the history, he is on everyone. There's people that are, there's a really great guy that's got some of the most amazing Formula One watches, and he is just posting about him, talking about him. these people in this community, there is some real advocates that give you that boost, that give you that love, and they will help you. And they'll say, hey, you've got a digital movement. This is the person in Australia to see. This is, and those are the things where I'd say to you, as a community, is very, very be embracing of someone else loving our relationship with watches.
What I will say about that, and thank you for sharing that story, that's really cool, is that the watch collecting community is so fortunate that it has so many really high quality, what I call amateur historians. Yeah. There's an incredible amount of people that in their own little niche are keeping alive or putting together a lost history of how a brand did what it did or what it made or little things like that, which can seem silly, but when it's all taken together, I mean, if only other histories has such dedicated historians trying to keep it together and to collect the history and to make it still feel relevant. I mean, we are so fortunate. We laugh about it, but this Esoterra would easily just be lost if not for these volunteers.
And you point out volunteers. You think about it as people have written books. Well, you've written a book. You think about the G-Shock book, and you think about the books that have been created, the books that have been done, yes, part and parcel, sometimes with the brands, sometimes not with the brands, but these books on this collecting world. I mean, there's a book on quartz and digital movements that I found out actually probably about a year and a half ago. And it had this brand that I'm bringing back, and I launched it on Thursday of this week coming, and we're bringing it back, and it was the backbone for the digital Swiss watch world in the 70s and 80s. And it was the quartz movement, and these guys were the backbone and the business. Anyway,
will you send me one? Can I see this?
I will send you. I will send you the prototype. So basically, we're launching it with them. I found the father, and the father is probably about 85 or almost, I mean, older.
Okay.
Talked about the Swiss watch world. He provided the quartz Swiss digital movement for multiple brands. So
cool.
So when I was taking some digital watches to pieces, I saw this wording in there and this little N, and it was a wonderful little shape. And anyway, the brand's coming back. It's Nipro is the brand.
Oh, fantastic.
And it is weird, wonderful, crazy. Ariel, I'll send you some images of the watch, but it's amazing because it's coming back, but what I love is this community. I found in this book, I found what watches the movement went into, and I looked at, and there's pages and pages of, hey, they did this movement for this movement for this, and that was where I went to myself and thought, this is so cool when you look at these brands coming, you find a book that honestly you can't buy this book. I got it from ABC Books, and I literally, someone showed me a copy of it, and then I've kind of my book is frayed, and it was written by two people. And you look at the description, one's a professor and one's something else, but they're not, their day job is not watches.
Interesting. That's something I'm finding exciting. I think if I run the numbers between your hobbies, your obligations, your family, your businesses, I think there's multiple of you. Because there's just no way that someone can do all that while listening to the podcast, while surfing the internet, and and going on and traveling and all that. I believe there are multiple George Bamfords.
Oh God, that would be so good. What are the few things that you want in life? One of them's a time machine where you can go back in time. The other one is duplicating yourself. Honestly, I go back to what we said earlier. If you do what you love, you don't do a day's work in your life. And, the thing is, I love what I'm doing. And so, of course, like every morning I'm up at 5 and I go to bed quite late, but I love, you're the same. You're a bit of a night owl and you work the different
I'm to
hours.
bed at 5, not awake at 5.
No, but what I mean is, so you're the other way, so the thing is, the best times to do stuff is either late at night or early in the morning, because the world is asleep. Or I believe that the world is asleep, so I don't get multiple messages. I don't get, so I can do work and do the things that kind of really connect to me.
Look, let's just be direct about it. What we want, what we aspire to have, is more free time to focus on our hobbies.
Yes, and it sounds really bad, but I feel like the drain of the black box that is my iPhone, that is Instagram and social media, and I use it as one of these things. I think what's great is to put that down and start searching other things or changing the algorithm. My algorithm now on Instagram is very much positive messages, positive videos, positive. I've changed it from being like, if there's any negative memes or negative in there, I'm changing it to positive, because I think to myself is we need to even rehack ourselves of how we see this world of that's communicating with us. We want to kind of make sure that we have people that give you those positive messages.
No, that's very interesting, and I can completely see how you can get down a very stressful rabbit hole in looking at all this media. I've had to self-censor in a lot of ways. I mean, I remember within minutes of seeing the original Facebook as it was maybe circa 2007, 2008, I was like, this is like a road to depression.
Yeah.
Like, the only outcome of this is feeling bad about yourself and constantly insecure, because the bar is going to be set so high by all these people who have free time to pretend like they're all having fun and doing well. Like, I saw no upside to this. I immediately dismissed it. It took a few minutes, but I immediately recognized most would not. It would take them years to figure that out. So really the problem with all this is that while you can learn all kinds of new stuff, sure, at the end of the day, it's just a giant system that makes you feel insecure. And there's only so much that we can take before we snap.
Well, honestly, that's why I've changed the algorithm. And I'll send you some.
Is there an option for that? I didn't realize that was a thing.
No, what you have to do is you have to start flicking through videos that you don't like and getting to these positives. So you have to kind of look at one or two.
Oh, so you have to like tell it you like certain things,
and you need to start. You need to retrain it. So it was going down, like I was going down, and I'm liking, I don't know, you would go down different rabbit holes, and now I'm kind of like, actually, it's feeding me a lot more positivity, because I think that's what we need in this world. But the other thing you pointed out, you on the early days of Facebook, you were very much, I remember when you put an article up, and I saw multiple quite tough comments, and you said, don't ever spend time in the comments. And I remember you saying there was some quite mean things being said, and you said just look at how good that article's doing, and it was amazing, and there was a thing where you just said, if there's anything negative, put it away. And I remember you telling me that, and it's something that's always been there for me, is and this was early days in my career, and early days, you just kind of gave me that pep talk that then made me realize that, there is always going to be someone that's going to say something bad about you, or there's going to be someone that hopefully is going to say something good about you. But, the best thing is that people are talking.
Well, we instinctively knew growing up that you never wanted to overhear someone else's conversation because you'd be insulted by it. But social media has allowed us to peek in on conversations that really aren't meant for our ears. They're for that little group of friends saying whatever dumb things they want. And for time immemorial, groups of friends amongst each other have said really dumb, ignorant things and thought it was funny and been damn happy no one else heard. All of a sudden, social media wants to make that everyone's business. And that's not a good thing for anyone.
Yeah.
So we don't need any of that. Now, they're entitled to that conversation, but you're also entitled to be completely shielded from it as nature intended.
And the other thing is you look at it and you go, oh, you want to be having that private conversation. But I think it's, someone described it to me as we used to have diaries to give our private thoughts. We now have social media that kind of projects our diary out to the world. And I thought actually that's quite an interesting way of looking at the world, is that we really do, and I'm guilty of it. I was in Monaco for the historic, and I'm like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing, and and so there is that whole thing of like, we project the outside world what we're doing, but the thing is, as long as we're not projecting negativity.
Now, there's a serious issue in the watch industry space, which is the enthusiasm of a lot of the financial managers. I think that they need to be pepped up a little bit. Think that they need to feel positive about the future. I think all they do is sit around here, people complain, read a bunch of negative reports, and see the news. I think what they need is to bring the luxury to the luxury industry, bring the passion, bring the love, not expect it to come from other places. And so my question for you is, what do you think are some ways of reinvigorating the managers of the luxury industry so that they start to create the lifestyle that they so desperately want to be associated with?
You're talking internally in the watch industry.
You make it as broad as you want. I think it's just whatever influences this industry to actually put energy into it.
I pointed out that we have a lot of things on our plates at the moment, and everyone is worried about this year. But what I would say is that, there is some amazing shoots and there is amazing things that are happening at the moment. And when you look at this world, I think that the brands have been very, I don't know, they've reserved some of the craziness. And I think that what needs to happen is you want to be a part of a tribe. You want to make people feel a part of this tribe, internally and externally. So what I mean is that, I want a nice warm hug from brand X because I want to be a part of that tribe. Then I become the loyal person on that tribe. And what's happened is, a lot of people are saying, so, these mono stores, and a lot of brands are saying we want more mono stores. People want to discover in a multiple store. I love what Watches of Switzerland have done. When you go in there, you go brand 1, 2, 3, 4, and you go around and you figure out what your connects to you.
Like now, the way it used to be.
And I know a lot of brands say, oh, no, we can control everything in a mono store. But the thing is, what you're doing is you're saying that people should already have done all their research before they come into a mono store. And I love retailers. I spend ages. I'm one of those at an airport. I love going to, multiple shops, but because I have to now, but I love going to one of those big watch shops where there's multiple brands that I can try on multiple watches. So what I would say is that this thing of vilifying dealers and saying, oh, dealers are, and they're not doing a good enough job and all these things. I think switch it around and say they are our front line of defense. They are our front line of bringing this community in. I remember when I was growing up, there was a person at Watches of Switzerland, a guy called Eugene, that was absolutely amazing. And I remember his name. And he kept on just taking me on this voyage of discovery. He said, have you seen this watch? Have you seen this watch? And, every time I'd go there, and I wouldn't buy, but I'd go and see him. Now it's almost like I have to go to the individual shop. So I don't go into it. There's a brand new Omega shop that's opposite Selfridges. And I've never been in. And I go into Selfridges and they've got their room of wonder, and I go and look at watches there.
The brand boutiques are not nearly as welcoming as the majority of third-party dealers. I agree. Look, I mean, this is, I think, what some of the downsides of having the corporate interests come in. They're just never going to be that pro-consumer. The bottom line and theoretical money they make is always more important than logic and common sense and long-term thinking. They all want to have high projections. They all want to, have something that sounds exciting for the next 3 years and then get out of there. So I think that long-term thinking it's something that needs to be pounded into their minds. I don't know what's going to do it. I try to write articles about it. I hope conversations are had,
No, I agree. Look, I'm probably annoying the brands that I work with by saying this, but you look at what happened at AP. They got rid of most of their doors. They went direct to consumer, and that's amazing because I'm sure their profit line went hugely better because they're not giving away a margin. But the thing I would say,
but how long will it last?
Well, that's the thing is it the voyage of discovery? You have to be soup du jour every year to make that work.
So changing topic to one of the more interesting things around Watches of Wonders 2024. I know you're good friends with Davide Chirato.
I knew you were going to talk about this. I knew.
All I want to know is what advice you gave him. Because I know that you guys are friends, and I'm just curious at the time what advice you gave him.
Honestly, we launched our watch before this. We launched the Aurora before Watches and Wonders. Davide kept very under wraps what he was doing. He showed me one or two of the samples, and you're gonna try and kind of say, critically we can do this. What I would say to you, no matter what, I think it has been a very good thing because everyone is talking about Bremont. And whatever the case is, good or bad, you think about what they've done in Watches and Wonders. No one, and like you, I was with guys from Scottish Watches. I was with some other people. When I was in Amsterdam, everyone asked me about Bremont. Now, 3 years ago, no one was asking you about Bremont, or 2 years ago, no one was talking about it. They, and at Watches and Wonders, when I talked to those guys, they picked up more dealers than they were wanting to pick up at Watches and Wonders, and they doubled or tripled the amount of dealers that have asked and put intent for watches.
It was legitimately a successful show for them. That is correct.
Yeah. So, as a critic, you can say, "Oh, the logo, they're this, they're that," but the thing, what I'd say to you is, I don't know personally. Well, I would say to you is, I'm sure the comments and how people have been about it has hurt a lot of people at Bremont. Personally, I think that they will feel down, they will feel depressed because they are living in the comments. And what you said is, don't live in the comments. Carry on doing what they're doing. I love Giles and Nick, and I love what they have created with Bremont. Would there be things that I'd say to you I don't love? But that's what
every
the world.
Brand.
But that's what the world is about. There's quite a lot of watches that I'm like, no, I don't want that. So don't buy it. But there's other people that go, hey, that really connects to me. And for me, I think that what they did was very clever. I think Watches and Wonders. I look at who were the brands that everyone was talking about out of Watches and Wonders, and it was Nomos and them. Those were my two, and I know everyone says to me, why did you highlight Nomos? And I could say to you, IWC with their record-breaking watch, Piaget with their record-breaking watch, and Bulgari with their record-breaking watch. These were, Guinness Book of Record watches. So those are the big highlights. They're the big knocks. But when I had journalists talk to me, and I'd be like, "Hey, what should I go and see?" They were like, "Go and see Bremont. Go and see Nomos." Nomos has delivered thousands of, or I think it was 300 dials or 300 colorways, and it was a very beautiful stand, and they did a bloody good job. Bremont, everyone was like, you've got to go and see Bremont because there is such a, they've got brand new watches, they've got, it literally gave me a list of things, and I was like, wow. And so what I would say to you is, no one said, hey, you've got to go and see this brand. These are two brands that were upstairs by where the journalists lived, But it wasn't that big kind of like, oh, wow, big stand. And, you think about some of the big brands, you'll be going, what the hell?
So you didn't have a chat with them sort of like man to man after the show?
I may have
Yeah.
I may have had a few chats, but what I'd say to you is, I'm exactly how I am now with you, and I all the way through. I said, genius stroke.
I sat him down. I chatted with him.
Yeah. And the thing is, it is a genius stroke. It's a genius what they've done, because it is different. It is one of those things. It's like, I don't know, shop. I compared it to Elon Musk and the Tesla truck. And when he threw that metal ball at the window and it broke the window, and he said, oh, it's armored glass and it's all these things. And what happened, and what I loved about it, was the world became the critic of Elon Musk at that point. This futuristic thing, but still the glass broke. I saw it, and it turned up on every platform about that car. He couldn't really get Tesla trucks onto every platform, from a launch, because it's another car launch. But when it turns up on the BBC News and says Elon Musk's cars, the armored glass, and he broke the window or something, you're like going...
Let's clarify. No Bremont watches broke at the fair.
But do you know what I mean? It's the same type of scenario. Is everyone still talking about it?
Well, I hear you. I also remember that almost every single show, some brand gets the scrutiny. Somebody becomes the ire of media for whatever reason. They're the whipping boy for everyone's problems. Audemars Piguet had its year with the 1159.
Oh yes, I remember that. Oh my God, I remember that.
And a lot of other brands have had the, oh my God, can you believe they did this? And it's the talk of the show. Every Basel World had at least one. We just don't remember
You're right.
But Bremont, they had they probably won't again. No one's lucky to have it 2 years in a row, right?
Yeah. No, you'd have to rebrand it again. But I think, look, I think very clever. Davide is someone that you have to respect of what he has done with other brands. And, he has made, he brought Tudor back in the way that he did it. He when he was Mont Blanc, what he did with Minerva. It's Minerva, isn't it? It's the new...
He was mostly at Mont Blanc, but yeah, who knows?
It was bringing back, but it was bringing
Minerva,
back the movement that they brought into the Mont Blanc. There was a lot of things that he did, and I look at. He is also someone. You talked about Basel World. He was one of the first people in the watch world to put an arm around me and have a chat to me in the nicest way.
Yeah,
we shared a sausage at Basel World that was fabulous. We shared a sausage. That's kind of really bad, isn't it? But anyway, him and I, he was the first person to become a friend. And that's where I'd say to you is I'm very lucky to consider him a friend. Giles and Nick, definitely from Bremont, are great friends of mine. But Davide has always been someone that's been a part of my watch world.
He's one of the most emotionally committed managers I know in the space. Absolutely. Definitely. We're out of time, George. What do you want to plug? Obviously, you have your two websites, BamfordLondon.com and also BamfordWatchDepartment.com. But anything specific you want to plug to the audience?
Anything specific? Please go and check out the crazy thing that's the Nipro watch. It comes out Thursday. It's going to be something...
NIPRO?
Yeah, NEPRO.
NEPRO.
Yeah,
Nipro.
But it's on our Bamford London website, and we're going to be the retailer worldwide as well with them. I just tell me I'm crazy, or tell me that I've struck something that makes you smile. And honestly, I just love coming on this. I love chatting to you, and I love talking about our hobby that really makes me smile. And hopefully the people that are listening and watching this, know that, we're all lucky and we're all wonderful in this world because we're listening to something and we're kind of embracing our hobby.
This has been the Superlative podcast interview once again with George Bamford. George, thank you so much.
Thank you.